Hello there and welcome to Twitch here. Well, Bunkazilla on Twitch tonight for another edition of Film Raw. This time we're trying a completely different live setup, so it's quite exciting, isn't it? I am your host as always, Ian Bolton, and we're here to digest the latest movie news and movie reviews. And of course, I need to be accompanied by someone, and he's right here. Well, hopefully at a safe, reasonable distance from me. It is, of course, Christian R. Allen.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Excellent, yes.
Oh, how are you doing?
I decided to celebrate how uncomfortably warm the world is today.
Yes, I've got tissue.
Yeah, bless you.
It is really warm. Really warm.
I'm wearing a thick black shirt and drinking coffee, so I'm not. It's not helping at all, really. In fact, it's making things worse.
Yeah. So it's a lovely day to start trying to do a live show together.
Well, the fact that you've lost about 2 stone in water weight just from sweating.
I seriously have lost a considerable, not a considerable amount, but I haven't lost money. I've lost weight. I have lost a very interesting amount of weight. I think I've lost about 4 or 5 kilograms over the last couple of days, and that's simply because I've just been sweating.
I mean, have you found your mattress is just the same consistency as a waterbed now?
I literally have to have a towel. I have to have towels everywhere because it's like I am so sweaty.
Oh.
It's like you can see now I am really sweaty, and it's like I haven't been doing anything. It's like I had a cool shower before we started the show.
You could have warned me about that while I was in there.
Yeah, true.
Like, is there a total lack of friction on your body if I was to stroke your face, which I won't because of social distancing? Like, jinx, you owe me a coke.
Yeah, true.
If I was to touch your face with the force or lack of force, just slap my arm across. Just like,
I'd rather not wonder that, to be perfectly honest.
This is the first time our wonderful viewers that Ian has denied the opportunity to be touched by me. So I'm normally just touching your heart, which is more metaphorical than literal.
Well, this is a great start to the show. Hello. So, as always, do let us know what you've been watching this week at cinema, on streaming, on DVD, Blu-ray. Do let us know what you've been watching in the Twitch chat. We would love to hear from you. But as we always start our shows, we start it off with our cinematic week. So, let's get the fancy new screen going. Because we are on Twitch, so if you are listening to this on our audio podcast version, we are going to do this live every Wednesday around 7:30 on twitch.tv/bunkers in the UK. All one shiny word. Do come and join us.
It's a very shiny word.
It's a very shiny word. So let's have a cinematic week.
Ooh.
What's the first film you're going to talk to us about, Christian?
The first film we're going to talk about is The Free Burials of Melquiades Estrada.
Okay, let's bring up the cinematic week screen. Huzzah!
Oh, wow, you got the poster.
Oh,
I like the composition of that.
yes.
Like...
It's nice. It's like we've been planning on this. It's been working.
I will say, I guess the camera's just close on me. I look twice the size than I normally do, because I could assure you it's the other way around. It's like I'm half the man Ian Bolton is.
It's trying to at least make sure that I'm in the frame.
I thought it was just going to get your chest nipple height, obviously.
So, tell us about Free Burials.
Yeah, so it's Tommy Lee Jones. I believe it's his directorial debut.
Really?
Unless I'm mistaken, because he's done a few things since.
He probably has.
If I need to double check that, I should have probably checked that before.
That's okay. Yeah. But I know Tommy Lee Jones definitely did direct this. It's like I'm surprised this is his first time directing.
Well, it's 2005.
Okay.
So that is 15 years ago. Even though in my head the Matrix came out in 1999.
Yeah.
And I still feel like the Matrix came out last year. I don't know why.
Are you living in the past, Christian?
I'm always living in the past. Nostalgia is a curse. No, it's a neo-western, and basically Tommy Lee Jones plays a cowboy whose close friend, a Mexican migrant living in Texas, is killed, and the film is non-linear. There's an air of mystery as to how he died. And the film takes its time sort of unravelling the plot, and it's quite compelling. It's very compelling viewing. Tommy Lee Jones' character, he starts to believe that basically justice isn't being served and becomes a vigilante, and kidnaps a character played by Barry Pepper, who is a slightly dodgy chap. He's a border agent who's more than happy to brutalise the women who are desperately trying to flee across the border. So you're not particularly empathising with the character.
Okay.
And Tommy Lee Jones kidnaps him, and we're not entirely sure what his plans are, whether or not he's just going to torture him for information or like straight up murder him.
Okay.
That's the initial setup. I don't want to talk anymore because I feel like this is very much a film that the less you know, the better the experience will be going in.
Okay.
It's also it's a very nuanced piece. It's quite emotionally complex. There is no real straight hero, no real straight villain. Even Pepper's character, despite the fact that he's clearly the most despicable character introduced in the film up until in the third act, there's still it's a fully fledged performance. It feels very real. I would highly recommend it. I just watched it randomly without really knowing much about the film at all. I didn't even realise Tommy Lee Jones had directed anything, to be honest. So I don't think this film made much of an impact on its release.
Did this come before or after No Country for Old Men?
Oh, before, about 3-4 years.
Before, okay,
yeah.
all right.
Because I'm not sure if Tommy Lee Jones had sort of established himself as the sort of go-to for the sort of like grizzled cowboy-esque neo-western character. Like.
True. So, what else have you been watching?
Well, sticking to Tommy Lee Jones, I decided to revisit Clint Eastwood's Space Cowboys.
Okay, let's bring up the poster here.
Let's have a look at the poster.
Oh, look at them.
There they are.
Look at them. They're
So,
all
there we
cool.
go.
They're all cool. They've got their things. It's like, we could try that right now. It's like, all we have to do is just kind of look like that, look towards the camera, smile, and pretend we have sunglasses on. But we're being blinded by the camera light.
I have sunglasses on the other side of the room, but if I stand up, I'm going to be
you're going to get in the way.
I'm just going to get in the way. Never mind. We're like.
Anyway, let's talk about Space Cowboys.
Have you seen the film before?
I have many years ago, probably when I was about 10, 11, 12. It's like it was part of the usual kind of Saturday night takeaway, laugh at Casualty, and then watch a film.
Laugh at Casualty.
Casualty. We've been into this on a previous episode of The Big Stomp, which you can download from all good podcast networks, by the way. We talked about how Casualty was always like, how is someone going to get injured in Casualty?
Oh yeah. You spent 10 minutes trying to work out.
You're not tense. You're just going, well, I see they're at a construction site. They're looking after a very pointy machinery item, like, I don't know, a jackhammer. How are they going to hurt themselves? I don't know.
He's not wearing shoes.
Oh no, there goes his foot. Anyway, I am distracting. Talk about Space Cowboys.
Yeah, Space Cowboys. So Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, and James Gardner. Mm-hmm. They're basically playing the stereotypical characters they're associated with. So they're not really stretching their art as actors.
Okay.
But the film doesn't really demand that at all. I mean, it's basically Clint Eastwood in space.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not Dirty Harry in space, though, is it?
It's not quite Dirty Harry. It's
I've had very bad ideas on this already. So
have you been writing fan fiction about Dirty Harry in space?
I've just had very bad parodies in my mind.
I don't know. I'm amazed at how many. There was about 17,000 Dirty Harry movies, weren't there? Or 5, closer to the
5, 6, 7. Depends if you count Gran Torino and stuff like that.
What is that meant to be?
I don't think it is, but it is angry Clint
spiritual.
Eastwood. It is angry Clint Eastwood of Get Off My Lawn.
That's most Clint Eastwood.
Most Clint Eastwood films. Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Okay.
He's very. I mean, here he's very much get off my lawn. By which I mean, get off my my Soviet era satellite, which I have to repair, otherwise it will crash into the earth and all sorts of shenanigans will happen. James Cromwell, he plays the sort of like a senior official in NASA.
Yeah, he's in this, isn't he?
Yeah, I think.
Is it just gather all your older friends together film?
It feels that way.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't bring a pig.
No. So come on, round up Clint and the boys.
It would have been great if the pig had been sent up, like the monkeys. I will say this film. It's a very enjoyable Sunday afternoon dad movie.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Me and my partner, we were thoroughly entertained. I mean, it's one of the more popcorn-y, if that is a word, popcorn-y Clint Eastwood movies that he's ever made. I really enjoyed it. It's a thoroughly good time. You do fall for the characters because you love the actors who are playing them, and that's again, you're not watching a character played by Clint Eastwood. You're watching Clint Eastwood in space. He might have thought he actually was in space.
I just going slightly off tangent. I know of Bill Hader.
Yeah.
He's done lots of Clint Eastwood impersonations for Saturday Night Live. And you remember that famous Super Bowl advert where he's sort of promoting like a Dodge car or something, where he's just going, America, it's halftime.
Yes.
And they've done different versions of it, and it just gets more and more ludicrous. It's like, you're wondering how high my trousers are. They're up to here. And for the benefit of those listening on audio podcast, I am pointing to my pecs.
I'm just your beautiful nips.
My beautiful nips.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
your sweaty nipples.
It's so warm.
It's so warm.
It's so warm. It's so warm. Shall we move on to your third and final film of the episode? Or for cinematic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a bit more. I stuck with Clint Eastwood, and I decided to watch Letters from Iwo Jima.
There we go. There's the poster on the screen.
Yes, it's a very haunting movie. It's I think it's my favourite. I'm not sure what my favourite Clint Eastwood movie is.
There are some extraordinary Clint Eastwood films out there. I love $1 Million Baby.
I'm a big fan of $1 Million Baby.
I still only watched Unforgiven.
I was going to say Unforgiven is probably my favourite, and Unforgiven is incredible.
And you also did Changeling, which I think you responded.
Oh gosh!
Well, I know you've had a response to Changeling, but I know when we've talked about films along the lines of directed by Clint Eastwood, Changeling has been one of them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Changeling is I would recommend it. It's just infuriating. The story being told is so maddening. And the fact that it's based on a true story as well. It's just it's the only film I've watched where I found myself screaming at a character. Like I won't repeat the words here, but it was profanity laden. Like,
we're friendly for the moment.
So I mean, I'm a big fan of Clint Eastwood as a director. I'm a fan of it as an actor, obviously, especially the Sergio Leone movies. Oh, yeah. So it was surprising that this and Flags of Our Fathers, which is a companion piece, I haven't seen before, and I'm hoping to watch Flags of Our Fathers some point this week, so I can talk about it next episode. But this is a really interesting film. It's quite it's surprising that this is an American war movie from a Japanese perspective. And normally the Japanese in these films are caricatures. They're not even played by Japanese performers most of the time. They're not even played by American Japanese or Korean or Chinese. And the Japanese have been quite frustrated by this because apparently the accents have always been quite off. You know, when they're being like slaughtered by John Wayne on his own. So it was quite refreshing to see a film like this where I wouldn't say it glamorizes the Imperial Army, but it certainly portrays. It feels like it's portraying an authentic, honest army. There are sycophants. There are the usual overzealous, monstrous commanders, but then there are the sort of the lowly soldiers who are just thrown there, who have wives and children at home.
I'm right in thinking that obviously for authenticity, this is also filmed in Japanese with English subtitles.
Oh yes, full Japanese cast. Yeah. It's in Japanese. Subtitled, and actually Ken Watanabe, who's probably more well known in the West for sort of cameos in Nolan movies, like he plays the fake Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. Spoiler: Liam Neeson is Ra's al Ghul. I was about to say Leslie Nelson. Then that would have been a very different movie. He's also got a cameo in Inception as well, hasn't he? Oh, did he? So you're just thinking of Leslie Nelson, aren't you? I'm trying to talk about a very serious war movie here. Don't make me come over there and slap you. What movies do you want to throw Leslie Nelson into now?
Oh, I think that's something for the chat room. If you're watching and you know who Leslie Nielsen is from Naked Gun Airplane.
How do you not know who?
Well, you never know. Some viewers might not know the joys of Airplane or the joys of
Airplane. Imagine him throwing him into like Air Force One or Con Air. Oh, that movie's improved like infinitely.
You can imagine Nicolas Cage is about to land a plane or something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, just want to tell you, Nick Cage, good luck. We'll count on you. Who was that man? Oh no, Leon Rimes. I don't know.
Your hair's growing quite long. You've almost got the sort of Con Air Nick Cage going through at the moment. But yeah, going back to the serious movie.
Serious movie talk.
No, it's it's one of the best war movies I've ever watched, let alone one of the best Clint Eastwood movies I've ever seen. Watanabe himself, he portrays a real life general, Kiribayashi, who basically he seems to be one of the few sane leaders who is aware that there is no hope, and decides to go against convention. No pointless suicide missions, although the mission itself is one glorious suicide mission. He's determined to keep the Americans as far away from the homeland as long as possible.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, it's a strange one watching a war movie where you're not you're not rooting for the, I don't know if protagonist is the right word, but the sort of the focus of attention, I should say.
The characters that are in the focus of the storytelling are engaging, I think.
Absolutely engaging, and they're fascinating, and you do feel for them, because I mean the war, regardless of what side you're on, war is hell, and the conditions are horrendous.
Yeah,
and I think Clint Eastwood does a very admirable job. I'm really fascinated about Flags of Our Fathers because it's effectively the same movie from the other side. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if he filmed it together.
I think he did film them kind of one after the other because it was a double bill because they had Flags of Our Fathers. It is Flags of Our Fathers.
Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah, Flags of Our Fathers released in September, or it released just before Christmas, and then just after Christmas, Letters from Iwo Jima. Apologies about mispronouncing it. Apologies. That film came out then.
Well, it's certainly interesting because they're both. You're right. They were both released around the same time, and it was the Japanese story that actually was more financially successful, both domestically in the States. It was a big hit in Japan.
Was it critically the more successful?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
And that's why another reason I'm interested in it, because you'd think it might just be the novelty of it being sort of an authentic portrayal of a Japanese perspective by an American filmmaker.
And in regards to war movies, I mean, there have been many, many great war movies over the years in cinema. But
it just lends itself to the form.
But I think sometimes war films can always look the same sometimes, and it's not, and that's not necessarily a demerit towards the filmmaking. It's just obviously when Saving Private Ryan came out, and Saving Private Ryan was extraordinary. A lot of other war films start going down the Saving Private Ryan route, and it just there's no. I don't think in terms of war films previously. I think the recently 1917, Dunkirk, for example. I think they've been ones that really stand out heads and shoulders because of how they present their film, how they showcase the story as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing about 1917 was this film is Iwo Jima is very desaturated and shaky, and because the rock, the island they're on, it's just lends itself to that look, and it really enhances the sort of cinematography. What I really liked about 1917 is that although it's World War One and it's trench warfare, there are moments where the colours were just were absolutely beautiful. There was a full spectrum of colour on display.
Okay.
I really took to 1917. I really do recommend the 3 films I've watched. I recommend them all. I mean, you'll get you'll get different. You'll have different experiences of all 3 movies. If you want something a bit more lighthearted, obviously Space Cowboys. If you can get hold of it, grab it. But the other 2 movies, especially Iwo Jima, I would definitely watch if you can. And the other films you mentioned there, 1917. Are they re-showing that at the moment?
I think certain cinemas are playing it at the moment. I know some cinemas are definitely playing some Dunkirk as well because Dunkirk, excellent. A lot of cinemas are milking the Nolan back catalogue in the run up to Tenet.
Yeah,
which we've booked our tickets for.
Oh, we have. Excellent.
IMAX opening day. Did you just thumb up to the computer?
I'm trying to work out. I'm in framing, so otherwise I'm just I don't want to do.
It's all good.
There we go.
It's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good. Anyway, so is that's your cinematic week?
Yeah, that was my cinematic week. Basically, just Clint Eastwood and a lot of misery.
Okay, well, I'm going to take things a little bit down, a more jovial, a bit jovial, a bit super, a bit. But let's start off with The Deadly Game. Now, this is also known as All Things to All Men. I have no idea why these titles have been chosen because it's never referred to in any version of the film.
It's the subtitle Live, Die, Repeat.
No. That's it tomorrow. But it's a crime caper where a thief played by Toby Stephens, who turns up as the young Clint Eastwood in Space Cowboys, I think.
Oh, can we quickly just talk about that? So,
Okay.
don't have to change the poster. Just in the opening of Space Cowboys, you have the characters played by in the 1950s, played by younger actors like
Toby Stephens.
Exactly, but the older actors dub their voices, and it's strange because it really works for Clint Eastwood. It's fine because the actor they've cast just looks like Clint Eastwood in the 50s. Tommy Lee Jones has an old man voice and has always had an old man voice. And it's the most... trying to sink in with this. Even James Cromwell's voice worked-ish because he's still playing an authoritarian figure. But it was just so... It kind of reminded me of... they recently rediscovered... It was about 10 years ago. They rediscovered lost scenes from The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. And for the DVD release back in 2005, 2006, they got Ilya Walsh and Clint Eastwood to do the English dub because it had never been dubbed into English before.
Oh god!
And they did it as rather than. I wish they'd gotten actors who sounded like they did back in the mid 1960s, because it just suddenly Clint Eastwood sounds like a 90-year-old man.
I'm gonna raise you a little bit on that one. So, when Bond games. I think for PlayStation and GameCube they had From Russia with Love, and the big marketing ploy was getting Sean Connery back to do the voice of Bond.
Was this the Wii game?
This was GameCube and PlayStation 2, I believe. Maybe Xbox, but it's previous generation game.
Yeah.
But the thing with this is obviously they brought Sean Connery back, and that's a massive scoop because considering Connery's history.
Sean Connery,
of course. So they've managed to get him in. But if you listen to any clips of the game, he sounds so old. It's kind of heartbreaking away because it's like, I appreciate Sean Connery is doing a job, but it's kind of when it's kind of like you think the voice should be nice and youthful. It's like, hello, I'm here to stop Spectre. Where shall I go? Am I being paid?
Oh gosh, would you have preferred them to get like an impersonator?
Probably.
I mean, it would have added sales obviously, and it is nice to slap that with Sean Connery.
Oh yeah.
Was Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye?
No, they didn't bring his voice into the GoldenEye. I think Everything or Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Which was
it's a spiritual successor, wasn't it?
It was Everything or Nothing was again its own separate Bond game, which was written by one of the Bond film writers, Bruce Fairstein. Starred Willem Dafoe as the baddie, actual Willem Dafoe, and I think I can't remember who else is in it. I think one of the. It's lost me. I'm going to have to look during intermission, and we might talk a little bit more.
Does Sean Bean die in this one as well?
No. It's Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is the baddie. Everything or Nothing is a completely different game. It's kind of like Willem Dafoe is trying to take over Russia with mech suits and stuff like that.
Nice, as you do.
And it has a proper Bond theme sung by, I think, Eva. I don't know their names. Anyway, why don't we talk about the deadly game? The deadly game. So, yes. So, Toby Stephens plays the thief. He's hired by London's top gangster, who is played by Gabriel Byrne, to rob a bank vault in the city. However, little does Toby Stephens' character know that the job has been set up by a corrupt police officer, played by Rufus Sewell, who has his own ambitions with the vault's contents. I had this on Blu-ray, and I couldn't find it in my vast shelves of the Blu-rays, which you can't see on camera.
I could just start stealing your films, and you'll never know. You'll never know.
Please don't. No, I wanted to watch this. It was available on a streaming service. I think you can watch this on Amazon or Popcorn Flicks as well if you've got an Apple box. The good things. It's very, very quick. It's an hour and 25 minutes. And
I do love watching a film that's
nice
90 minutes long.
It's like they are nice length films. And it's a nice ensemble because all these main actors, Toby Stephens, Rufus Sewell, Gabriel Byrne, even Julian Sands is in this. They've all played villains in various different films or potential villain characters. I mean, Gabriel Byrne, Kaiser Soze in Usual Suspects. Or is he?
Spoiler.
Or Toby Stephens, Die Another Day. Rufus Sewell, I think, Knight's Tale. He was the evil knight in that one.
Oh, yeah. So I just think of that for
Julian Sands fought Jackie Chan in The Medallion with Lee Evans. But we don't talk about that film.
That film clearly was a good film until the editor decided to cut half the film down into a montage.
So it's quite the Dead game's quite good of having all these character actors play villains. Like they've all played villains before. They're all playing villainous characters here. That's absolutely fine. The thing is, it's very generic. Double crosses, triple crosses, and all that are very easy to see. And I think without the quality of the ensemble, this is something you could probably watch. Again, it's like you talked about the Queen being on Channel 5 but being good. This would be on Channel 5 but not necessarily good at all. This is kind of like,
maybe Sky One by the sounds
maybe
of
yeah.
it.
It sounds it looks really nice. It does feel like it's a film. The problem is the storyline that is just it's same old. It's like, oh, I've been set up. Oh no, not again.
Has someone been watching too many Guy Ritchie movies? Basically?
Possibly. I'm not sure. But if you can watch it for free on the streaming channels, give it a go. And like I said, hour and 25 minutes. It's not much, is it?
No,
not at all. Not at all. Shall we move on to my next film?
Go on.
Let's liven things up with. And I need to make sure this appears on my screen before I press the button. There we go. Let's talk about Spy.
Oh, Spy! I wanted to catch this at the cinema.
Have you not seen this?
No, I haven't actually.
So this is comedy directed by Paul Feig. This is the film before he went on to do Ghostbusters, and we all know how Ghostbusters turned out.
Yes, we do. But it was this after Bridesmaids.
This was after Bridesmaids as well.
I liked Bridesmaids.
And The Heat, which was Melissa McCarthy and
With
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yeah.
So Melissa McCarthy is the CIA analyst who becomes a spy in order to avenge her mentor. And it's generally just a fun setup of spy films. It's basically, it ticks all the boxes. I mean, you've got Jude Law appearing in a small cameo role, trying to do his best James Bond impersonation, though he's playing an American agent. I think, as you can see from the poster, Jason Statham is probably the treasure of this.
Well, he's the treasure of everything.
He plays every other Jason Statham character, but he plays it to 11. Or he just keeps.
How do you play? Okay, surely Crank.
Well, this.
Sorry. Surely Crank 2.
Well, here's the thing with Jason Statham's character in Spy. Basically, he wants to get in on the action, but apparently there's a mole in the film that has compromised everyone's identity in the CIA apart from Melissa McCarthy because she's an analyst. So Jason Statham wants to get back into action. He's been told no, but he just keeps coming up with ludicrous reasons why he is the best man for the job. And it's kind of like things like, I had to steer a car as it fell from a building onto a moving train while it was on fire. Not the car. I was on fire. And it's,
all right, that sounds pretty good.
And every time he goes into this rant, or that sort of rant, it escalates and escalates and escalates to the point that he's just going, really? he wants to have his cake and eat it and just be the best spy. But it's just too bad. He's a mean guy, but it's just the sheer madness of what he spouts.
And
it's trying to prove his masculinity.
And by the sounds of it, the film's it's very much winking at the audience.
It is.
Right. I just say I loved Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
I hated Ghostbusters. Where does this film fall?
It is better than Ghostbusters. I'd probably say it's not as good as Bridesmaids. Considering I've seen the film a couple of times now, I still enjoy it.
So you would recommend it?
I recommend it. There's a good ensemble as well. Miranda Hart's in this as her best buddy. Peter Serafinovich is in it as an Italian operative who might be a bit too lecherous for his own good.
I love his little cameos, just randomly from Hollywood.
Yeah, Alison Janney is head of the CIA and stuff like that. So it's a nice little ensemble, and it's silly, it's daft. But the fact is, it's very fond of the films that it's spoofing or kind of having fun.
So a more restrained version of Top Secret.
In a sense like that. Yeah, like that.
That's also a very good film.
Yeah. So I think Spy's on Netflix at the moment, so go check it out if you can. Shall we talk about the last film?
Go on. I thought you had this all set up on your phone, so you'd be able to.
Well, I'm teething things.
That's right. This week I'm unlikely to disappear.
Oh, good. Good. Please don't disappear.
Oh God, I've seen the film you're about to talk about. No.
Let's get it over and done with. Superman 3.
It's not even the worst one.
Where do I start?
It's not even the worst one. Right. So I've watched this quite a few times over the years, and so I already had a strong opinion about this.
I think in this house there is a VHS copy of this somewhere.
Oh really?
And I don't know where. And
probably buried in your film collection.
It's probably buried in the film collection over there. So, What is Superman 3 all about? Well,
what is it all about?
What is it all about? The Man of
Who
Steel.
knows?
The Man of Steel gets more than he bargained for when he goes up against a corporate tycoon played by Robert Vaughn, him of classic Man from U.N.C.L.E., and computer genius played by Richard Pryor, who seek to use technology to achieve world domination.
As you do.
Now, that in a sense is like, okay, it's a little bit far-fetched, but go with it. But here's the problem. And we were having conversations about this. I think I was live messaging you as I was watching this film. And here's the thing. I feel that the question we had to ask ourselves is, was this a Richard Pryor film or a Superman film?
No, this is a Richard Pryor vehicle, and he takes up almost double the screen time. In my recollection tells me that he takes up far more screen time than Christopher Reeves, which is crazy because Christopher Reeve plays two versions of himself.
Yeah.
So despite that, he's still second to Richard Pryor.
And the film does, and Richard Pryor is a great comedian.
Oh, and he's fine in this,
yeah.
and he does what he does best, but it just doesn't suit the film.
I'll tell you a little bit of trivia. I'm going to tell you a little bit of trivia. And Richard Pryor, in his autobiography, he admitted the screenplay was terrible. He knew, but he was being paid $5 million.
I would have done exactly the same thing.
It's like, yeah, it's a bit shit, but you know what? I'll go with it.
Gotta pay my mortgage, innit?
So the reason why I feel that this feels more like a Richard Pryor vehicle, because there's a key point in the film. I think it's just as we begin the second act, and Robert Vaughn and Richard Pryor, they've committed their first dastardly act with technology. They've commandeered a weather satellite and they've made hurricanes appear in Colombia so they can take over the coffee business. And it's like, wow, that's evil.
Can I just check? Does Vince Vaughn play a character called Beck Spoofer?
No, Robert Vaughn.
Robert Vaughn. Does it? Oh no, we're live. Does he play a character called Beck Spoofer to make my awesome joke work?
I don't think so.
Don't think so. Like it's clearly Gene Hackman.
He's clearly Gene Hackman. So they cause a hurricane. And you
as you do.
You see Colombia under threat of all these hurricanes, mudslides, and all that sort of stuff. Cut to the next scene. We're at the top of Robert Vaughn's corporation tower, which he's managed to make into like a beautiful sort of like ski slope chalet. So fake snow, fake slopes, little cabin.
Doesn't his partner? I can't remember the character's name. Isn't she like the most horrendous pink? Like
possibly
that's just a memory.
But I can't remember it that much. But the reason I remember this scene quite a lot is they are talking about how evil they've just done something, and then Richard Pryor comes in and he begins to sort of explain how Superman has stopped this plan. And I do not recall seeing Superman going to stop this thing in Colombia at all. It's like
he blows a gust of wind, doesn't he?
It's just basically, oh no, our plan has been scuppered because Superman has come and stopped stuff. So then they decide to plan how to make kryptonite, which is an altered carbon. It's an altered kryptonite. It turns him into good and evil Clark. We'll get to that bit in a moment. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But when it's after this whole planning happens, Richard Pryor commandeers a pair of snow skis, whatever they are, and he just falls off the top of the building, just falls off, skis right down the building to the ground floor.
Again, this is a Superman movie.
This is a Superman film where we're spending 15 minutes on that.
Was it cheaper just to pay Richard Pryor all that money than to actually put in decent special effects?
I don't know because there's other things here as well. I mean, Lois Lane, Margaret Kidder is only in it for 2 scenes, the start and the end.
Yeah.
Because I like the fact there's a focus. I mean, for the Superman perspective, in terms of the Superman story itself, I like it. I like the fact that Clark goes back to Smallville. He's seeing his high school sweetheart. He's seeing his school chums and all that sort of stuff. I like that. I like the idea that this version of kryptonite that the villains create make him they turn him into like a good Superman, bad Superman effect. I like all that stuff. It's just horribly derailed by a terrible villain or terrible villains.
Well, it's a Pryor. Although he's villainous, he's played so comedically that you don't really feel he's a genuine antagonist.
No.
Even though he's the one really causing
No, not at
all the
all.
problems. I mean, my frustration with this film is that there are germs of good ideas, like you suggest, and there are elements of the comics. But it feels like there's an element towards the end in the third act where it feels like that should have been a Brainiac film.
I think they've wanted to do Brainiac for some time. They just
keep going back to Lex Luthor.
It's never happened in the live action films. It never happened. I think they've done it in Superman Unbound, which is a DC animated film.
The animators don't really count, do they? No, because real audiences beyond geekery, they don't care about these, do they?
No one cares.
No one cares about animated DC.
But you should care about animated Batman.
That's true, especially Mask of Phantasm.
Yes. Anyway,
Gold.
Superman 3.
And you're talking about the split Superman. That I always thought that clearly they were going into the Bizarro. If you're familiar with Bizarro, who's like a twisted inversion of Superman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like a Frankenstein-esque Superman who thinks he's Superman. So yeah, they've clearly plucked up different ideas and then just turn it into this strange Richard Pryor vehicle, which just doesn't work. As you do. It's just so terribly ill-conceived, the whole movie. I mean, at least it's mildly entertaining, because are you planning on watching Quest for Peace?
Well, I've watched the first three. I might as well, because I've been doing it Superman film a weekend.
Yeah.
So and we did Superman a couple of weeks ago. So yes, I'm on to Quest for Peace this weekend.
Right. So you're gonna be kissing Superman 3's arse. How fantastic it is compared to the horror show that is Superman 4 : The Quest for Peace.
No.
You're gonna be. I can't wait for your stream of consciousness to come flooding in through my through Facebook Messenger.
Oh dear. I think on that we should end our cinematic week. So basically, Superman 3. That's all I can make.
3 stars? It's 2 stars, really, isn't it?
I think I gave it 2 stars. I think 2.5. I was being generous.
Oh man,
it's like I said. I do like the Superman bits. It's
everything else.
It's like what the F are they thinking?
The greatest moment in the history of cinema is in Superman 3, though. It's when the red man and the green man on the traffic lights they start swapping, and then they go down and start punching each other out. I mean, even as like a 5-6-year-old watching this, I was like, what?
I saw that and I just went, what? That's not how technology works. Does it?
It's amazing that a film like the 80s, the 70s, 80s Superman movies, you accept that a man can fly. You totally believe that he is this dual identity alien. That's not a problem. But the traffic light scene, that's what. No, out.
It's like,
done.
It's like Invincible Man from Outer Space. Fine. Red and green lights fighting.
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Anyway, do let us know what you think about the films we've covered in our cinematic week in the Twitch chat. Love to hear your thoughts. We're going to move on to some news. Who likes news? Do you like news, Christian?
I like news.
What would you like to start off with? Would you like to start off with some Tron or some 4K?
Tron.
Let's start off with Tron. And this is the news that Tron 3 is going to move ahead. It's been 10 years since the Legacy. It's almost been 10 years since Legacy.
That's amazing.
It is.
I do worry that Tron Legacy is not as good as I think it is, because I imagine watching it without the Daft Punk score.
I think the thing I remember about Tron is like I like the visual aspect. I like the soundtrack with Legacy. I wasn't that hung up about the story, to be honest.
It was pretty box.
I can respect it for its place in Disney's sort of filmmaking legacy, I suppose. But I'm not that. What's the word? I'm not that excited about Tron 3, but we're going to get one apparently. So this has come from Empire. Empire have reported that Garth Davis, the director of the Oscar-winning Lion, the film that got Dev Patel's Oscar, he's been attached to the director's chair for Disney. Jared Leto has confirmed he will be one of the stars of it.
Okay.
And I have Jared Leto's words right here.
So,
we're going to read. So I am so very excited and proud to confirm that yes, I will be starring in Tron. We will work as hard as we possibly can to create something that I hope you will all love. We have some very special ideas in store for you all. See you in the grid. And apparently there are reports that Davis actually fought passionately for his role as director, and Leto has also written about his love of Tron's futuristic neon-infused world. Tron outside of Legacy has had a decent sort of run of film. I mean, they had Tron Uprising, which was the Disney cartoon.
It's been to be quite good.
I've
heard high praise.
There's also some really cool Tron rides around Disney Worlds. Disneyland or Disney World Shanghai, I think, has the Tron Cycle one, which is basically they're bringing that to Disney World in Epcot.
Oh, cool!
So they're currently building that. So it's like there is still a fondness, I guess, from Disney for.
It's interesting because the original Tron was actually a box office bomb. It's all developed a cult following. I've never really been able to get into it. Like I say, I enjoyed Legacy, but I think that was purely aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not really a series that's really. I'm with you. Has never really captivated me, but I'm interested. I'm glad to go and see a third Tron movie. I mean, the concept is great, and it surprises me there's been so few Tron movies actually, because again the concept just kind of lends itself to a franchise of sorts.
Well, Disney were really hedging their bets, I think, with Tron Legacy, because 3D cinema was at the peak of its return again. I remember when I was working at cinemas and I was doing Disney days, where you would go and Walt Disney, the Disney company, would show you upcoming stuff. They were really pushing Tron. They were going, look, put these 3D glasses on, you'll see how cool it is. It's like, yeah, the 3D's nice.
I do recall the 3D working better than most of the films.
I think it's Joseph Krinsky, I can't remember the director's name, but I think the director went on to do Oblivion with Tom Cruise, which wasn't a bad sci-fi film. And I think, I might be wrong, I think he might be doing Top Gun Maverick.
I think you might be right. I need to double check that.
We'll check that during the intermission.
Both Oblivion and Tron Legacy have a great score by French electronic artists.
The closing song of Oblivion is amazing.
So good. So good.
So yeah, Tron 3 is due at some point in the near future.
Like all films. Some point in the future. Right, I'm going to bring up our next stage, because we're going to stick with Disney. I like the picture you chose for Jared Leto.
He looks so happy. He looks so happy in that one. I'm going to turn that one off. I'm hoping this is going to come through. All right, let's move it to the live. There we go. So let's talk about Disney's decision to kind of forego 4K discs for a good portion. We'll explain a little bit. I love the picture from. This is from Explitter.com.
Oh, you didn't knock this up?
No. I tried to find the image that would most sum up the situation. But let's talk about the story. So
can I just start with one word?
What?
Bastards.
Okay, let me explain it to the viewers and the listeners. So, according to reports, and this has been kind of reported by home entertainment sites like Digital Bits and Blu-ray.com and that sort of stuff. So, Disney are going to limit what they release on 4K moving forward. So, if it's a Disney animation, if it's Pixar, if it's Marvel, if it's Star Wars, don't worry, you're going to get a 4K disc. Anything else is not going to. Now, obviously there's many reasons this could be the case. Pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic has derailed a lot of things.
Well, is this a permanent?
I don't know. I think it's not on their radar at the moment, because obviously last week we were talking about Disney Plus and Mulan and all that sort of stuff. Disney are really going for it with Disney Plus. Some of the content's been great, some of the content's not been so great. Fair enough. But obviously, I think the thing from film fans, especially for those who like the physical media, is Disney are just kind of ignoring the legacy of their live action movies, the ones that are not related to Disney properties. It's like Buena Vista Pictures, stuff like that. But the problem is as well, they bought Fox last year.
Yeah, and that's a huge, rich back catalogue.
So does that mean we're not going to get a proper Alien box set in 4K? I know Covenant and Prometheus is available in 4K.
And First Alien, Aliens 3 and Resurrection are not.
So
I mean, that was generally my first thought when I read this news: is I need Aliens on 4K. What the hell?
It's kind of like, what's going to be the measuring stick for Disney to give something a 4K outside of those parameters?
It seems so strange, because I see the other studios fully investing in 4K. My wallet is hurting. Like seriously, the amount of like I've just spent £70 on a pre-order of Dawn of the Dead.
What?
The Dawn of the Dead 4K box set. It looks fantastic.
Oh, fair
I think a Second Sight have produced it. Yeah, it's available for pre-order for about Blu-ray 65, 4K 70 odd.
Have you seen the Infinity Saga box set?
Yes, and I would never spend that amount of money on it because I have a mortgage and like bills to pay. But it's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous set.
You could kill someone with it.
I'm not spending free. It's like I have them on most of them on 4K already.
I've got all the available 4Ks.
Like, I would love it in that set, but I'm not going to spend £350 for it.
No, I mean the thing about 4K is that I found that the discs are either fantastic or not worth your time.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel films, they always excel. I feel like, and I used Endgame to test my new equipment, and I'm doing this too much, but. Just then you get films like the Bourne trilogy, and they just look worse than they do on Blu-ray.
That's Universal, though. I think.
Yeah.
I think
I'm just talking in general.
Yeah,
like,
I think they were some of the first sales come on 4K, and it's like even Lionsgate were at fault as well, because there are some really good Lionsgate discs out there. Sin Caro, John Wick, they're really good discs. Problem is when they release stuff like that, they release films that should look good in 4K, like Expendables or Expendables 2 or something like that. They drop the ball, and it's just because they want to rush out and just capitalise on the format. And I get that.
But the problem is the people who buy 4Ks are the cinephiles who know their stuff, and they're just not going to bother. They just won't buy it. They'll do what I do. They'll go on the forums on Blu-ray.com.
Yeah.
They'll see what the first person who's pre-ordered it or like got it by some means, like you should test a disc or something.
Yeah.
They'll go, is it good? Nope, never mind. There's £30 saved, and they've just wasted all that time and effort. And they're just They didn't need to digitally smooth everyone's face.
No.
Terminator 2 is probably my second favourite film of all time.
Didn't get good 4K, did it?
It looked awful. And Arnold Schwarzenegger looked more like a wax doll, and it's infuriating. Like just because no, there's grain in this film. How we need to scrub it out. It's
no one likes grain anymore.
Well, the good 4Ks retain the grain, or a level of grain.
We've talked about this before. I'm not sure which episode. I think it was probably for those listeners watching. You can go download some of the old previous audio only episodes. I think we talked about it when we were talking about either Last Days of American Crime or we were talking about Artemis Fowl.
You've got good recall. I have no idea.
Yeah, they all blurred into one. I think we went over before. So.
The whole world's blurred into one since February.
I mean, it's like I look at some of the 4Ks I've got at the moment. So it's like I've talked about Da Vinci Code. Da Vinci Code looks okay on 4K, but sometimes the noise is or the grain is too much. I mean,
digital noise.
Yeah, digital noise. I don't know. It just feels.
For a disc that size, why are they compressing it?
I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's frustrating because obviously for cinephiles like us and for other listeners and other watchers out there, obviously they want physical media. I mean, yes, you get decent picture quality with 4K. I mean, we've been very lucky to have decent internet connections to watch things on Netflix in 4K and Disney Plus in 4K. But that still doesn't. I think you still want that physical media. You still want that physical media to at least have a continuous bit rate, a continuous sort of picture quality experience, which you don't necessarily get with
streaming. No,
because I mean it's like during COVID, all the streaming sites decided to lower their bandwidth, so things looked worse. I mean, it's like Labyrinth looked terrible.
I mean that was reasonable.
That made sense.
When you take the real world consequences, but with me, it's a question of ownership. Because I very much like the art I like. I wish to own. I mean, I'm never going to own a Salvador Dali. I can own a copy of Aliens on 4K one day, hopefully. But the thing is, like, people like you and I and other like cinema aficionados, we will be happy to spend our hard-earned cash on a top-notch product. Like I'm happy to spend £20 to £30 on a really good-looking film if the film warrants it. I'm not going to spend 40 quid on a Free Flavour Cornetto trilogy box set when the Blu-rays look better. Makes sense. I don't know how that happened, but if Edgar Wright's watching, which I doubt, but it'd be cool if he is.
Hello,
right?
Edgar.
Hello, Edgar.
Hello.
What happened? I would be furious if I was you. I just want Hot Fuzz in 4K. Hot Fuzz and Aliens. That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, that's something we need to keep an eye on. We'll see what happens, because you never know. Things can always change. Disney might decide to change their minds. Who knows?
Well, the power struggle that seems to be going on behind the scenes is absolutely fascinating. I mean, I'm taking bets. I don't think Disney's going to go bankrupt anytime soon, but it's going to, as a company, it seems to be hemorrhaging. I can't say the word. Billions.
It does say.
And I think it seemed to have been in financial difficulties before COVID-19. So I can imagine. Imagine if they sold Fox back to Murdoch for like half the price.
I don't think that'll happen.
You don't think so? Or maybe not Murdoch himself, but
if they were to sell that stuff, I don't think it'll go back to Fox. I think it'll go to something like Universal.
Yeah.
Universal were quite keen on buying
or Time Warner,
Fox as well.
Or like Warner Media, that's it.
Yeah, Warner Media AOL. So many different mergers. So many different mergers. Right, load up. There we go. Now we can transition. We can transition and talk about Psycho.
Nice.
1960. It's 60 years old this year.
That's mad.
That is mad. That is absolutely mad. But yes, Psycho. I wanted to cover something Alfred Hitchcocky, because tomorrow Alfred Hitchcock would be 121.
I'm amazed they didn't make it to 121, to be honest.
Oh, never mind. He's just going to just pop out of a cask and go, "Good evening."
Hello.
So, yes, if you haven't watched Psycho or don't know Psycho, then the plot is as thus. Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, mysteriously vanishes after stealing money from her employers. Her lover and her sister are trying to retrace her steps and eventually find their way to the Bates Motel, where its owner, Norman Bates, resides. Does he know anything about Marion's disappearance? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that's a nutshell. I mean, if you are a film fan, if you haven't seen Psycho at some point, you're kind of going, so we will be diving a little bit into spoilers here.
I mean, is it possible in this day and age? I mean, I knew everything about Psycho 20 years ago before I even watched it.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it being parodied to death from like The Simpsons or every horror movie. I mean, like I knew about the reveal about Bates and whatnot.
I love the whole theatricality around how Hitchcock presented this film. There are posters, you can find them on the internet, where it's just Alfred Hitchcock looking at his watch like that and kind of going, "No one will be let into the screen as soon as a showing of Psycho starts, because you have to watch it all." And obviously because they don't want to spoil the big surprise, the big shock of it all. And in essence, a lot of film critics and a lot of film reviewers look at this as the birth of cinema horror, in a sense.
Well, the modern horror movement, certainly.
And you were talking a bit before we went live about how obviously today you look at obviously the psychopathic killer is Norman Bates. Obviously back in the 60s, incredibly frightening.
Well, yeah, because it was such an unusual concept to deal with. Now, in this, since the 70s, you know, the idea of the serial killer or the sociopath or the psychopath has become mainstream.
Yeah,
it's mainstream fodder for most entertainment, and there's been an increase in such cases certainly since the I presume my understanding is the Charles Manson story sort of kicked this off to the nth degree in the public imagination, and through research the FBI in the 1970s, which actually recently got covered in David Fincher's
Zodiac.
Manhunter.
Mindhunter.
Which I believe has just been cancelled, which sucks. Because it was very good. It felt like quite an authentic exploration of the developing understanding of serial killers and psychopaths. But yeah, and when this film came out, such ideas were not well known at all, and there's an awkward scene at the end where after the film has reached its climax, there is a psychologist.
Yeah, psychologist
has to explain the motivation of the character, because it was, and it's that scene really. That's the only scene from a modern lens sticks up like a sore thumb, because it is telling us what I as an audience already know. Yeah. But it makes sense at the time because people would have come out of the cinema of disbelief.
I mean, things of schizophrenia, split personalities, and so forth. Obviously, they were kind of unheard of in films at that time.
Yeah,
I think Psycho is probably one of the first films that may have tackled that. Obviously, if there have been previous earlier films, do let us know.
well, I mean, mental health has always been touched upon. I say mental health as probably a modern gaze and less tasteful perspectives on the matter. You know, like just people being portrayed as mad as a shorthand for being an antagonist or whatnot. I don't think this film falls into that trap. Like I say, it feels like the first and sort of modern interpretation of such figures, and it's despite the fact that it's 1960 and has the fashion of the 50s and it has this turn of the century hotel and it's black and white. It still feels fresh.
Oh yeah, if we go back to the movie view screen, hopefully we've got a picture of it popping up very shortly.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've got Marion Crane still driving there gently.
Yeah.
Mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, I believe.
Oh really?
I think so.
I did not know.
I believe so.
Oh. Need to check
History.
History.
Facts.
Oh, there we go. There's
the house. There's a wonderful house. I think
which Principal Skinner's mother also.
What's that, mother? I love the fact on the Universal Studios studio tour, they'll take you on a tram by it, and you'll just see Norman Bates getting rid of a body.
Really?
And it's kind of like, oops, nope. And then Norman runs back up to see his. And there's a nice picture of. I like that picture of Hitchcock talking to Janet Leigh just before the shower scene.
The shower sequence, which again everyone watching or listening to this will know the shower sequence. It's incredible. I mean, like I don't believe you actually see.
No, you don't see a single stab. It's just you see the knife kind of go against the body a couple of times. But no, I think the Gus Van Sant version, which we will never talk about, but in comparison, probably went the full hog of stabby. Yeah. But no, there's no sign. Obviously, the violence is implicated, but you don't see anything else.
You leave that scene feeling you had. It's very similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was people came out the cinema thinking it was the bloodiest movie of all time, of the so-called video nasty. Hardly any blood in it at all. You hardly see anything.
Yeah,
it's all clever filmmaking, clever editing, and it's up to that point. I don't think obviously Hitchcock had proved himself as a cinematic genius, but nothing to that scale.
No.
I don't think there's anything else like it in his entire body of work.
No,
that one scene could cement a filmmaker's reputation for many years.
But luckily for Hitchcock, he had many.
He has
many
cherry on the cake.
Many things that he did. I think when I think about Psycho, I do like Psycho. I think it's one of Hitchcock's most iconic works. I think we watching the film after going through it the first time and kind of getting all those story beats and getting the story beats and the realizations. It does feel very procedurally, because you have it's like a play. It's like we were talking before we went live. It's like a play in 3 acts. You've got the first act, which is Marion Crane stealing money, going on the run. The second act is the detective coming after. The third act is Marion's sister and Marion's lover coming after. And I do get, and I do appreciate, it is the building of suspense. It's the building towards the moment where you find out the truth about Norman Bates and his mother. And yes, the reveal is still amazing.
I still think the reveal is very effective. And again, first time I watched this, I knew everything that happened in this movie. Just either through like being told or cultural osmosis, and I still found it quite shocking.
Yes.
Again, only the end scene, the expositionary scene is the only scene that really took me out of it. But I can forgive it because it was necessary. But no, I mean, the Norman Bates character is still quite unnerving. I mean, it's interesting. You say it's 60 years since this film came out. I think he's still part of the conversation of the most generally terrifying horror villains.
Because I think I think Anthony Perkins is amazing in this, and it's like there are times where you do feel a bit sorry for Norman, because obviously if he's living with a very intense
horrifically controlling
mother, yes, obviously it creates those sort of tendencies, I suppose. Obviously the frustrations and all that sort of stuff.
You can empathise.
Yeah, you can empathise a bit, and I was reading up on how obviously, because again, it's like I say we shouldn't talk about Gus Van Sant's version, but the thing that people found was it's like Vince Vaughn being Norman Bates.
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn.
Not Robert Vaughn.
No, Vince
Vince
Vaughn.
Vaughn.
The right Vaughn. It's like...
Wasn't that remake frame by frame?
Yeah, shot by shot. Even with the music.
Just in colour.
The music.
Oh gosh, the music.
Yes.
I haven't talked about the music.
You know, bit of trivia here.
Go on.
Hitchcock tripled the score composer's salary after he completed work on Psycho, because basically he said that made a third of the film work. Basically, that is an important third of the film.
Oh yeah.
So without that music,
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the shower scene, the score to that, is probably the thing you first pick up on, either as a kid or just as a general consumer of mass media. And can you imagine that scene working without it?
No.
It's like Star Wars without John Williams' score. It just doesn't work.
Originally, it was going to be silent. It was going to be silent and just with sound effects.
Had he already completed the Birds by this point? Was the Birds?
I'm not sure, but apparently the score for Psycho convinced him otherwise to convince him to put the music in for that segment.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, we could talk about Psycho, tons and tons and tons, but obviously we've got other films to review. But no, absolutely, if you haven't seen Psycho yet, there is a 4K coming. Shocking from Universal.
so Universal can give us 4K of some classic Hitchcock movies, but Disney won't give me Aliens. It's like,
oh no! But no, I think Psycho is a great work of Hitchcock's. It probably isn't my favourite Hitchcock film. Still, I still think it's North by Northwest.
That's the same for me as well.
But the fan base I respect and I admire the film for what it is. There's the biopic of Anthony Hopkins, Hitchcock, which is worth watching because it is kind of a nice dramatised look behind the scenes of how the film came together, like the fight with the MPA to get the film into cinemas and so forth. Because I think the 4K is supposed to offer the film uncut, and it's like, really, how much
more is there?
Apparently, there is a German print of the film where it is apparently uncut.
Oh,
so
that'd be
I
interesting.
probably need to research that a little bit more. But that is something that's been offered on the 4K disc.
Interesting.
So it'd be interesting to probably revisit then. But as it stands, it's a nice way to celebrate his 121st birthday. So no surprises. I think we're in agreement. Psycho, 5 stars. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. Okay.
Why isn't it working?
It's been working before. Why is it not? Maybe the file. You know what? I'm going to try and reload the file. It is going to be American Pickle.
You found yourself in a little pickle now. at the
I
moment.
definitely have found myself in a pickle. You don't see this on the audio version, but my arms are flailing at the moment. So give me a few moments. We'll try and get this going again.
Well, you saw that out. I'll just keep talking about Psycho if you want.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's definitely a 5-star movie. It's not my personal favourite. It's not the one I'd go to, like North by Northwest or maybe Dial M for Murder. And I believe the 4K set it's going to be The Birds, Psycho, Rear Window, which is another Hitchcock I really enjoy.
Yeah.
What was the fourth title?
Vertigo.
Vertigo. See, Vertigo's an interesting one because that's the film that tends to get most of the critical praise. But I've always found it I've never really been able to get into it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
But I think Psycho of his entire body of work, I think that's the most important film because it's definitely the landmark. It's the one film of his that changed the way films were made, or at least that genre of film. We having any luck with the graphics?
No, but give me a few moments. I'm going to throw an image in there so we at least you can definitely at least see what we're talking about. So technical difficulties. It's the magic word of the day.
You're not going to load a picture of Pickle Rick, are you?
No, because good lord, the film is not about pickled Rick. What's the best picture for this? This one does. This one does the job. There we go.
There we go.
I'm going to slam it in there and we're going to cut to it right now. Yay! We won!
Professional.
We won! Yes!
So smooth. I don't think anyone watching would notice that.
No, no, it's not like you disappear like last time. We don't talk about that.
Don't talk about that.
Anyway,
don't talk about that or remakes of Psycho.
Anyway, let's talk about American Pickle. This is a film that's already available on HBO Max in the US, or if you're in the UK, you can go see it at the cinema. And it's taken full advantage, obviously, of the COVID situation. This stars Seth Rogen as Herschel. He is a humble man who's immigrated over to America, and he is found a living being just a simple rat beater at a pickle factory. Unfortunately, he falls into some pickle juice and gets perfectly pristinely sort of preserved for 100 years, where he gets freed and then is kind of put into the care of his great-great-grandson, also played by Seth Rogen. And thus, Herschel tries to find his way in a new world where all his loved ones are gone and he only has one family member left. And that's basically the plot in a nutshell.
In a pickle.
In a pickle.
No.
Yeah, in a pickle. I don't like pickles.
Pickles are good for you.
But I do. I like this film. I like it. It's a very quirky comedy. I think the premise is very silly. It's very fantastic.
It is silly, but the film knows it's silly. I
Yeah.
mean, there's the moments at the beginning where I don't want to give too many jokes away, but the explanations for him surviving are just thrown away so quickly. Like,
oh, I love that bit. It's like the little bits of it is like, and then the Cossacks came.
I mean, just a bit more context. It's worth explaining that the character is a Jewish migrant escaping persecution from. It's meant to be. I read it as Russia, but it's kind of a made-up Eastern European country.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Cossack. Was it Cossacks who were the?
I think it's Cossacks.
Yeah, the Cossacks. They're bane of his existence, even in the 21st century.
It's like anything Russian related is Cossacks.
Like vodka poster. No.
And so it's very quirky. The humour. It's like I found that opening segment very funny.
Yeah.
It's just the whole sort of this has happened, then this, and then I fell into crying.
Again, it's very much winking at the audience all the way through.
Absolutely, and I think. When you get past that quirky comedy, and again, the film is quite short, it's under 90 minutes. We do love our short films here. It's still quite... I think there is heart behind this film. I think when back in the day you say Seth Rogen film, you always think about gross out humour. You think about things like Superbad. You think about things like Pineapple Express. I think Seth Rogen in his last few films, especially, I love Long Shot.
Yes, I think that's an underrated little gem. I think more people should watch that. It's Charlize Theron, isn't it?
Charlize Theron as well.
The chemistry between them is great. It's basically it's a gender swapped version of Pretty Woman in effect. I think the film even talks about it at some point.
Kind of jokes about that as well. But the fact is, Seth Rogen knows what makes a character work. I think he's been able to sort of play roles and do productions that he's very interested in. Obviously, he's behind shows at the moment like The Boys and Preacher and stuff like that. So he's got a very varied sort of... I think he's working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as well at some point.
Oh, they're rebooting that?
Yes.
Okay. Again.
Movie-wise, of course. At TV, I think it's already done several many times. It's still running. So yeah, I think... I like this film. It's quite horror. I think Seth Rogen's really, really good in this because he's doing double duty. He's playing two characters. And sometimes for actors, you're playing two characters, it's very easily seen like they're one and the same. But I think one of the strengths, especially with American Pickle, is that they both have characters. They both have a sense of identity. You've got Herschel, who is trying to find his way. He's not sort of... And also, he's not sort of someone who feels like he's lost his views. He's just going, I'm going to do this. Off I go, in a sense. Whereas... the grandson, Ben, played by Seth Rogen as well, he is trying to kind of... Well, we get an understanding that he's suffered a personal tragedy with his family. Because he's the last member of his family. His parents have died in a car crash a couple of years before the film starts. But you get a sense that there is something about their passing that has not settled well with Seth Rogen's character. That Seth Rogen's character. And it builds, because you kind of wonder what is it building to, but ultimately, in a sense, it is about having to deal with grief and dealing with family and dealing with faith.
Well, yeah, I mean, the legacy of family, it's dealing with the legacy of your family. It's literally presented as a problem for him. And I'm not entirely sure I'm in agreement with you in terms of the performances. I think I like Seth Rogen playing the modern character. And I will say this, it's nice to see films where a lead is playing the same character and you don't get the awkward split line where they've tried to merge the film together. Like...
It does look very organic, which is really good.
Yeah, Hollywood has mastered...
Unlike Superman 3.
Anyway. But I found... Obviously, he's a character, he's dealing with grief and the expectations, not just of family as well, but society. He unlike the Herschel character, he is... utterly vulnerable to the opinions of others, and that actually has a detrimental effect on his aspirations in the film. The Herschel character, I liked him. I found him amusing, but the problem is he felt a bit too Borat light for me. The accent, first of all, I don't think the accent worked. I think the accent, I mean, it came across as, again, there were moments where he sounded too Borat.
I can see what you mean by him sounding too Boratish, but again, from a character perspective, he's not doing Borat or trying to find a woman and going very nice.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a far more family friendly version of Borat, I would say. It's the same. It's the same. The fact that it's an outrageous character from an alien time or world who can get away with doing outrageous things because he has been removed from that natural environment. Yeah. There's even a scene that's quite reminiscent to you. I felt it was a bit too derivative of Borat's Kazakhstan, which is actually a village in Romania. And when they go back to, I think it's Split or something like that, the home nation, which is basically ex-communist Russia falling apart. I just thought there were moments where it was a bit too derivative of Borat, and the problem is Borat is a nasty film. I mean, I love it, but it's a vicious movie. It's a
film I can't imagine flying well today.
Well, no, and in fact, this film, although it deals with similar themes in terms of the alien character who is outrageous, the film its heart is much bigger. Okay. This film is very. It's in some ways it's kind of family friendly. It's just
But it's a 12A.
It's a 12A, yeah.
12A, yeah.
And I think it doesn't jar. I feel this film either had to go a bit further one way or tone it down the other. Okay. There's one moment where Herschel basically becomes like an exaggerated version of Ben Shapiro. Or like a Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh yeah, I know. It's when he goes from the pickle business to kind of being like very popular on the sort of like trendy indie food scene, to then kind of getting a Twitter account and then becoming kind of so controversial that they have to have talks and debates.
Yeah, and he effectively becomes like an alt-right commentator.
Yeah.
And it's amusing, but I don't think the film really knows what to do with these gags because it just everything feels a bit thrown away.
Okay.
I think the film works best when they're bonding over their grief and their familial ties.
Yeah.
And there's a subplot of the Jewish cemetery. Yeah. Which Herschel wants to restore. Things like that works really well. Yeah. The other tangents, I'm not too sure. It feels a bit like a bit too disparate.
So there's a bit, obviously, there's a portion of the film where Herschel decides to go run a pickle business. The younger generation, Seth Rogen, doesn't particularly do it. Ben, doesn't want to do it. But as Herschel's pickle business gets successful, he becomes jealous,
quite bitter and resentful,
and then he tries to derail it, and then it gets better, and then he moves over to Twitter, and again he tries to derail him there.
Yeah,
those bits I can understand, and it becomes that the Ben character becomes less sympathetic. You kind of think he's just being a jealous little brat.
Yeah, and it's interesting because despite Herschel's problematic nature, it's obviously. You understand it because of the character who he is. Like he's plucked out of a different time. I was about to say Seth Rogen's character. That's not helpful. When Ben becomes more of an antagonist, because he's the closest thing to a villain the film really has. Yeah. The film becomes less fun. And I found it a bit grating at periods because you just felt they're going to reconcile.
Yeah.
You know that he's going to confess what he's actually done. You know they're going to have a heart to heart, and it becomes so pedestrian. I mean, this film even needed, like I said, even needed to go more Borat and more edgy, more harsh, or it needed to go retain its sort of its heart, but maybe go more in a surrealist direction, because that's how I felt the film was setting up. I mean, especially with the scientists at the beginning and things like this. I mean, it's a great concept. I mean, it is silly. It is very silly, but there was lots of things they could have done with this, which they didn't. And I think where the film fails, it just makes it a bit boring and pedestrian. In terms of the jokes, though, I laughed at every joke. I didn't belly chuckle. I didn't guffaw quite loudly, but I did consistently laugh. Yeah.
The jokes are. I think a good portion of jokes are in good nature as well. It's not necessarily. It's like I can imagine if you're going down the Borat side of things, I can imagine some jokes being very mean spirited.
Which would have been fine if it was tonally consistent and it took a different direction. My problem is that film. It feels like the film is taking different. It's going in different directions that aren't particularly complementary, and it doesn't know how things are going to tie up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some plot points that just kind of resolved in a kind of awkward beat. Yeah.
It's like, and everyone was happy.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, this does feel like a TV special.
I think it obviously explains why it's on HBO Max.
But yeah, I don't get the impression this was made with cinema in mind. Last thing I will say is the audience I saw it with was actually quite packed.
Oh, okay.
It was around about 30 people in there. We were all wearing face masks. It's not that bad. It's easy. It's like, I don't know if people complaining.
It's a Bane convention.
It's a Bane convention, yeah. Although mine was a Matilda one from Roald Dahl. So not quite the
so
same.
you thought that Roald Dahl would save you?
Oh, please don't.
No, I won't.
But I only me and two other people were laughing. Everyone else was stony silent. So maybe the people of Whiteley Village just don't have a sense of humour, but maybe me and the other person from Southampton.
Harsh words.
But I could tell the audience. I don't think the audience didn't feel bored, but I didn't feel like people were particularly impressed.
Well, again, I think one of the good things about the film is it is short. I think if it was if it was that style for like 2 hours, it would be.
It would overstay its welcome.
Yeah. I think ultimately the way I look at this is I like the film. It's all right. It's a nice distraction.
Touches on some prescient things.
Yeah, it does. The question is this a film I'm going to pull out and watch again in a few months' time? It's not. I don't think it's going to be. The fact is, if I'm going for a Seth Rogen film, I'd be looking again at Long Shot. I would be looking at Pineapple Express. It's a nice film. I like the film. There's heart in it. It's watchable. It will amuse you for an evening. Especially on a streaming service, it will amuse you for an evening. But I don't think it's going to do anything more. And with that in mind, I can't give it any more than 3 stars.
No, I was jumping between 3 and 4 while I was watching it, because when the film works and it hits its stride, I think that, it's generally brilliant, and I did find myself laughing at all the gags, and despite my criticisms, I did I found the characters endearing, and I found the story quite sweet, but it's missing. It seems to be a lack of direction. Not entirely sure what it wants to do with the story, and the characters, and it just feels like there's something missing here, which is a bit more frustrating. I would recommend it. If it's available to you, I wouldn't go out of your way to watch it. But if it's on TV or you just want to switch off, I think I'd be surprised if you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I think there is something for the casual comedy fan to enjoy here.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I think 3 stars is generous.
I think it's just right. I think it's good enough. It doesn't outstay its welcome. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because I remember seeing the trailer. I was thinking, possibly. But the fact of the matter is, the reason we're saying it is because it was the only new film release at the cinema.
Yeah, and quite a lot of people seem to have flocked to see it. I say flock's probably the wrong word, but
I do have to break the news to you that Unhinged is still the #1 film in the UK.
No.
It made £120,000 last week.
That's probably not even how much Russell Crowe was paid to be in this Dreadful movie. I will say the American Pickle is miles above
Yes.
Unhinged in terms of like quality film
Yes,
making.
absolutely. So, American Pickle, 3 stars. American viewers, watch on HBO Max right now. UK audiences, you can see it at the cinema right now. Certificate 12A. So, that brings us to the end of another episode of Film All. Thank you very much for listening. As always, we'll be back next week with another episode. I really don't know what we're going to watch next time.
I have no idea.
I think Project Power is going to be out on Netflix, which is the Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt superhero movie.
Oh, is it a comic book adaptation?
It's not. I think it's an original film. It's about basically Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt and a third character are trying to stop this criminal organisation releasing drugs that give people superhuman abilities for 5 minutes. So it's kind of like a cop thriller meets superhero.
I'm going to just hazard a guess. The villain is Syndrome.
Possibly.
Well,
Possibly. But I thought I wasn't going to go to the cinema this week. But then Showcase so wonderfully put Inception in the biggest screen in Reading for $5 a ticket.
Nice.
So I think in the build up to Tenet, we should watch Inception.
Inception? Well,
Yeah.
I've got the 4K at home, so...
I've got the 4K over there. So at least we'll be talking about Inception next week. It's the build up to Nolan. It's Nolan mania.
What month are we in? August.
August.
Oh, I was hoping it was November. That could be Nolan November, but that doesn't really work, does it?
Nolan no. I don't.
No.
Why are we trying to market the?
Yeah,
the
that's their
celebration of Nolan.
It's their job to celebrate.
Yeah. Warner Brothers sort out a celebration day, something like that. I don't know. But yes, as always, you can email us at filmroll@bunkerzilla.co.uk. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch at Bunkerzilla UK. And yes, give us a follow. Doesn't cost much, but you'll be able to find out what the next shows on Twitch are coming. And I will be streaming over this weekend. Might play a bit more Fall Guys, who knows. And Lizzie is here on Sunday playing Dragon's Age Origins. But as always, thank you very much for listening. Have a lovely Wednesday night. Try and endure the heat because, my God, it feels a bit cooler, but it is still ungodly warm.
I don't think I'll be able to move from the couch. I think I'm sealed to it right now.
I think our sweat is sealed to it, and I worry about that.
I hope that's my sweat.
Okay. Fair enough. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. I have been Ian Bolton, and I've been joined by Christian R. Allen.
I'm melting.
He's melting. Oh, what a world. Until next time, keep it cinematic. Bye.
Namaste.